Okay. So continuing the question we had yesterday. Yesterday we learned that the Zohar says that when there's an arousal from below, which means when we try to inspire ourselves to come close to Hashem, and we do this from within ourselves, we just decide to come closer to Hashem ourselves without Hashem trying to inspire, without Hashem showing us any miracles, without Hashem revealing any inspiration to our souls, just from within ourselves make a decision that we want to become better. The Zohar says when there's arousal from below, that causes an arousal from above, that causes a response from Hashem. The response from Hashem is that He injects our mere mortal efforts with a divine gift. The divine gift is that this inspiration that we have, it's enduring, it lasts, and this concept is represented by the words of the Gemara: when a woman seeds first, the offspring is male. By the way, Dr. Ressman, the little research that I did about women seeding first, it seems like this is connected to who is stimulated first. Yeah. But the problem with that explanation is maybe as a medical doctor you can tell me why it makes sense, but I think that medical science hasn't caught up with that yet, and that should have any relevance to what the offspring is. Of course. Wow. It's just an interesting thing. Last week's Torah portion, the Torah says the laws of kosher. The laws of kosher, which animals are kosher, which animals aren't kosher, and everyone talks about one of the fascinating things about this is that the Torah says there are certain species of animals that have one kosher sign, not two, like a pig, and there've only been 4 animals that have only one kosher sign. Moses said that way before the discovery of thousands of species. No, there's 4. Camel, hyrax, the hare. So that's from straight in the Bible. But also in the Talmud. The Talmud says something. The Talmud people are quick to say it's from the rabbis. It doesn't have divine wisdom. The rabbis say in order for a fish to be kosher, the Torah says it has to have 2 signs, fins and scales. The Torah says that there is one that there are no. The Gemara says, the Talmud says, in Tractate Nida, chapter 6, Mishnah 9, that every fish that has scales has fins, but not every fish that has fins has scales. And the Gemara made that statement before there was any kind of submarines or sonar or a possible way to figure that out on ourselves by ourselves, before the discovery of tens of thousands of species of fish. And the Gemara says a statement: you should know whenever you find a fish with scales, you should know it has fins. There was one eel-like fish called omnipterus, which they thought had only scales, no fins. And they discovered that within 10 days of life, it sheds its fins. If you find scales, you know that there's fins. Right. Why the Gemara says that, why the Torah lists both signs that the Gemara mentions, the reason for it, but not really relevant. What I was trying to say is that, what was I trying to say? How do I get into this? Torah is beyond science. Yes, there's certain things that the Torah has said that prophetically that science could only ratify, thousands of years later. Now we could say that every fish that has scales has fins. But even now, I'm not sure science would be satisfied with this explanation, because they're always looking for more fish and looking. It's possible science would say that there could be another species, but the Gemara says that you should know forever. You will never find a fish that has scales but no fins. Anyways, yeah.
Cloven feet. Don't you cut or it's the other way around?
Cloven feet.
They have cloven feet. They don't chew cut. Like it. They're all the same.
One second.
a good question.
What about the camels? Is the camel have one of the signs? Isn't the camel a true God? Am I wrong? Are you?
Camels make milk. I don't know if you, I don't think
What are the four animals? Are you?
camel.
Yeah, camel. A camel. Yeah. Okay. So camels don't have split hooves, right? Camels have flat, but they chew their cud. They chew their cud.
Are they kosher?
No, they're one of the four animals that the Torah says that have only one sign. Oh no, the Hyrex is also considered to be chewing his cud. Okay. Anyways, getting back to where we're up to over here. So we mentioned that there are philosophers. I also looked up who the philosophers are. The philosophers are brought in the Rabbeinu Bachaye and other commentaries in the Torah. They were trying to figure out this phenomena. Why is it that when a woman seeds first, there's a male offspring? And they said the reason is because, as we discussed, because when the woman seeds first, the male seed is on top of the woman's seed, and therefore the male seed is dominant. And the Alter Rebbe has a different opinion. The Alter Rebbe says that's not the reason. The real reason is because it's precisely the female seed that produces a male offspring. And it's precisely the male seed that produces a female offspring. That's what we said. Now, the question is, in the analog, where a Jew is making an effort to come closer to Hashem, and that is injected by God's inspiration, and therefore it's enduring, the reason it's enduring is not because it's part of my inner feeling, and therefore it lasts longer. The reason why it lasts longer is because God blesses it to last longer. Because God carries my inspiration. In the language of the Talmud puts it this way: open up for me, the Talmud says, like the opening of a needle. And Hashem says, and I will respond to you and I will open up for you like the opening of a great, huge room in the temple called the Ulam, which had no doors. So Hashem takes our inspiration and gives us more. We make open up for Hashem like the eye of a needle, the tiny bit. Hashem says, okay, you're making this effort. I'm gonna blow this up. This is great. So in the analog, what's happening? Is it the woman's seed or the male seed which is causing things to last? It seemed. Is it more like the philosophers or is it more like the Alter Rebbe? Is it because the male seed is coming second, or is it because of the woman's seed herself that is causing it to last? Is it my inspiration that's making it last, or is it because God is blessing my inspiration for it to last? So the Zohar does say that. The Zohar and the Chassidus says it's because when you inspire yourself on your own, the kind of divine assistance that you're granted is more, versus when God inspires you first, then the inspiration is limited and it doesn't last. So it sounds very similar to the philosophers in that when the woman seeds first, what's happening? The male seed comes later, and the male seed causes the female seed to last. You hear? You don't hear? It's not the female seed per se that's causing things to last. It's not my inspiration which is making it last. It's only because God cherishes my step towards Him, and He blesses and He opens that up. But
the Zohar says that.
The Zohar says that. And it seems like that. Then the Alter Rebbe mentions the Zohar and he explains the Zohar, and he brings it as a continuation of his explanation, which seems very much incongruous to his explanation. It seems very in sync with the philosopher's explanation, because the philosophers say it's when the male seed is second that it's dominant. So here also, when Hashem's inspiration is first, it's limited. When Hashem's inspiration is second, then it lasts longer.
Obviously the older listening just travel down the opening.
Dr. Bressman, you got to do your homework at home. We gave you homework. Got to figure out how this works scientifically.
I'm sorry.
I know. It's gonna take you some time because no one's figured it out yet. So
Well, the analogy does the sperm travel upstream to meet the egg, or does the eggs travel downstream to meet the sperm?
I will be so happy if you figure this out, Dr.
You
Bressman.
guys would be great.
Okay, so
Maybe.
so you might want to answer there's a distinction between what the philosophers are saying and what the Alter Rebbe is saying. According to our explanation, the arousal from below is what triggers the arousal from above. And that's what causes it to last. It's because my versus in the analogy, according to the philosophers, it's not that the female arouses the male, and that's why the offspring is female. It's rather just because the male seed came second. It has nothing to do with what the impact of the female on the male. According to the analog, it's the female, it's the Jew who inspires, so to speak, Hashem, and it causes Hashem to respond to us, and therefore the inspiration is forever. That's so it's our seed that arouses the male seed that causes it to become a everlasting inspiration, because to have a male offspring, which male represents something which is enduring. But according to the philosopher's explanation, it's not that the female seed has anything to do with the male seed. It's just the female seed was coming first allows the male seed to dominate. It's not that her seed does something for the male seed. But that doesn't satisfy the Rebbe, this explanation, that because practically the birth of the boy, the birth of the male offspring is not because of the woman, rather it's because of the man. The inspiration of the woman, the inspiration of the Jewish people in the analog, is just a cause for God's inspiration to be there. But the actual birth comes from the male. The actual birth comes from the inspiration from heaven. And as Alter Rebbe says, a spirit from heaven will descend. And that spirit from heaven will inspire us to stay with Hashem, to stay close to Hashem. But the Alter Rebbe is very clear, and he says it's the female seed that produces the male offspring. In the language of the Medrash, hazachar min isha, the male comes from the woman. And the Alter Rebbe says that his explanation fits very well with the verse, which our question is, how does it fit so well with the verse? It doesn't seem like it does, because it seems like from the Alter Rebbe's explanation, the female seed indeed triggers the male seed. The woman inspires, the Jewish people inspire Hashem's response, but what's making things happen really is the male seed. But the language of the Torah is that when a woman seeds, she gives birth to a boy. It's that the birth of the boy has a direct connection with the female, with the mother, and the analog that our enduring man-like inspiration emanates from the fact that we inspired ourselves, but not because of Hashem's response. And that's our question. You follow the question, everybody? Okay.
What does us inspiring ourselves have to do with whether the embryo is a man? Where's the inspiration? What are we inspiring? I'm kind of lost there.
Okay. The Jewish people and Hashem are the source. The reason why there's such a concept of marriage is because God married us. God is the first husband, and we're the first wife. And that's why there's a concept of a male and female getting married. And so whatever happens in this world is a result of what happens in the higher world. So we're learning the end user result, and from that we're deriving what happens in heaven.
So if somebody never gets married, is there a reason for
it? Well, that's a very, very powerful question. It's a class in itself for that question. But let's just say this. Let's just say for right now is that there's no such thing as a Jew having pain and God not having pain with him. Pain is something that whenever we experience it, God experiences it with us. There's no such, we say in our prayers every day. In fact, we're saying a prayer today we haven't said in over a month, the prayer of Tachnun. And in that prayer, we say, whenever they have pain, he has pain. So there's, if God certainly wouldn't put himself and us in pain unless there was no other way to do it. But let's try to get back over to the subject. So There's a similar explanation. It sounds very similar to the Alter Rebbe, brought the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh in general had a very strong relationship with Hasidim and with Baal Shem Tov. Although he never physically met the Baal Shem Tov, but there was a relationship between them. I'll tell you one example. It is said that the Baal Shem Tov, it is known, the Baal Shem Tov always wanted to move to Israel. He always tried to move to Israel, and just he was prevented by divine intervention. He couldn't get to Israel. Things happened. He tried to move to Israel several times. He couldn't get to Israel. And it said the reason why he wanted to move to Israel is because he wanted to meet the Orach Chaim, this great tzaddik who lived in Israel, who wrote one of the explanations that's printed on the Torah. And it said if they would have met, Mashiach would have come. The Orach Chaim knew one of the spiritual meanings you're supposed to think about when you wash your hands for bread. The Baal Shem Tov once washed for bread, and after he washed for bread, his students saw that he was distraught. He said, well, why? What happened? He said that this reason for washing our hands, this Kabbalistic reason, is only revealed to one person every generation. The fact that I just discovered it right now means that the Orach Chaim has just passed away, because he was the one who was chosen by God to know the inner meaning of washing our hands. And because I discovered it now, that means that he has passed away.
Did he pass away?
Yes.
And he knew that.
You knew that.
He knew it. Wow.
So there's a relationship between the Orach Chaim's explanation and Chassidus, and here is one that sounds very similar. The Orach Chaim says this: a woman who seeds, says Orach Chaim, means a person who does mitzvahs. And the offspring of the mitzvahs, the woman who seeds means us, the Jewish people. We do mitzvahs in exile. And says Orach Chaim, if we will seed, if we will plant seeds in the exile, we will learn Torah, we'll put on tefillin, we'll do mitzvahs. In the exile, the offspring will be a male. What's the meaning of the offspring being a male? That there will be the coming of Mashiach. That's what the Orach Chaim says. A woman who will seed, this will cause her to be the offspring of a boy, which means we do mitzvahs in the exile. This will cause us to have the coming of Mashiach. What's the difference between the coming of Mashiach and the other redemptions that we've experienced, the redemption from Egypt? And the Orach Chaim says the difference is that the redemption from Egypt happened with inspiration from above, meaning we weren't really deserving so much of redemption. The Torah says the Torah describes the Jewish people in Egypt as being naked and bare. They didn't have sufficient merit to deserve the redemption, and the redemption happened only because God reached out to us and redeemed us.
So it's the second level.
Oh, Avtavart. Very good, very good, very good. And therefore, what happened after that redemption? It didn't last. The temple was destroyed. The Jewish people were exiled. However, when Mashiach will come, since the redemption of Mashiach is in merit of all the mitzvahs and the Torah of the exile, therefore it will last. So, what is he saying?
What I have a question. Are you
Well,
the people, the slaves in Israel at the time, had no desire to want to leave? They wanted to be in exile, but Hashem said, "No, you're leaving. You're gonna go to." Is that what happened? Or did they? I mean, I don't get it. Why did they not want to leave?
We're not talking about their wanting to leave. We're talking about the merits that they had to make it happen. We're talking about the mitzvahs that they did. But just you brought it up, just very briefly. Most Jews did not leave Egypt. Yes, 80%, according to one opinion. Another opinion, 49 out of 50 didn't leave. According to another opinion, 499 out of 500 didn't leave. Most Jews did not leave, and it says the reason they didn't leave is because they didn't believe that they could ever leave. According to one explanation, or another explanation is because they didn't want to leave. They wanted to remain slaves of the Pharaoh. But even the ones who did leave, it says that it wasn't that they really wanted to go, it just didn't want to be slaves to the Pharaoh, and therefore they were allowed to leave. It's a different subject. But what we're going over here, back to our subject over here, what's relevant here is that the redemption came because, in the language of Song of Songs, Song of Songs has two verses, which mirror the two kinds of symbiotic relationship between us and God. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me, which means I make the first move. And the other verse is, my beloved is to me, and I am to him, which means that God made the first move. So the month that we just had, the month of Nisan, it's associated with my beloved comes to me first, and then I go to him. God took us out of Egypt, and therefore, and after that we built from the tabernacle, and afterwards we built from the temple. It all came from him first, and therefore it didn't last.
People who remain.
Hold on. And then when Hashem inspires us, when Mashiach will come today, it's going to be in merit of all the mitzvahs we've done prior to that in exile, and therefore it will last forever. Mashiach's coming won't ever stop. The redemption. Mashiach will redeem us and will sing forever.
Two questions for you. The Jewish people who remained behind in Egypt, did they continue on as slaves?
No, they died. Okay.
What was the point of the being? What did Pharaoh leave them for if they weren't going to be slaves anymore?
The Pharaoh was gone and the Jews were gone.
Like, some of them remained behind.
The ones who remained behind died during the plague of darkness. So, although the Orach Chaim and the Alter Rebbe sound like they're saying similar sentiments, but they're different explanations. The Alter Rebbe talks about how our inspiration is a result, it causes a inspiration from on high. And and how our inspiration triggers something better. But there's still an advantage when Hashem inspires you first. Because there's still an advantage. What's the advantage? The advantage is that my step towards Hashem on my own is very minimal. Whereas if I see a miracle, if I hear my soul hears a voice of God and says do tshuva, and that's why I have a thought of tshuva, my neshama hears something, it's much more powerful. So regarding to what lasts longer, you're right, it lasts longer when I make the inspiration myself. But still, there's still an advantage. So the Alter Rebbe says there's actually a third method. There's a third kind of relationship, and that is like this. The third kind of relationship is like this. And the arousal from above causes arousal from below. That's one kind. That was like in Egypt. My beloved comes to me first. Then there's another kind where we make the inspiration first ourselves, and Hashem responds to us. But Hashem responds to us commensurate to with what we've given, something that we could reach. We inspire something, so to speak, by the Eibusher of level that we could reach. Then there's something else. When Hashem sees that we've done what we can, and Hashem has responded already, and now things are complete over here. We have us coming towards Hashem. We have Hashem injecting our inspiration to go further than it could on its own. Then something else happens, and that is Hashem gives us a gift that's beyond what our inspiration could have reached also. In other words, although I said before that our inspiration causes Hashem to respond far beyond what we've invested, but there's still some type of relationship to our movement towards Hashem and Hashem's response. Hashem is responding to us. In Chassidus, it talks about sale and a gift. Hashem's response to us is sort of like a sale. We invested, we gave, Hashem gave back. Then there's something else called a gift. A gift means that why give someone a gift? The Gemara says you only give someone a gift if they've caused you pleasure. But still, the gift is not because of the person. The gift is not because of what they've earned. The gift is because you want to give them a gift. So too, the Zohar says that after Hashem responds to us, He gives us a second gift. He sees that things are okay over here, things are complete over here. He then gives us something which has nothing to do with our efforts, nothing to do with what we could have triggered. And the Alter Rebbe says that these three kinds of inspiration, where Hashem makes the first move, where we make the first move, and the third, where Hashem just after He responds to us, He then gives us a second gift. The Alter Rebbe says these are the three holidays of Pesach, the time between Pesach and Shavuos, Sfiras HaOmer, and Shavuos. Pesach is a time when there's inspiration from on high. Sfiras HaOmer is when we are supposed to arouse ourselves and change ourselves. There's one from the previous discourse about trying to change our persona. That's Sfiras Omer, trying to fix up ourselves, and Hashem responding to us, making a change within ourselves. As one in the previous discourse about the animal soul and the godly soul, and how about meditating on the greatness of Hashem could elicit positive feelings in our neshama to change our animal soul. So that's the time we're in now, in the arousal from below time. And then Shavuos is a time where Hashem doesn't just respond to what we do for Hashem. Hashem gives us a gift that's far beyond what we could possibly reach. Those are the three. So the three kinds of things, as Zohar says, correspond to the three holidays: Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. So the explanation of the Alter Rebbe and the explanation of the Orach Chaim are very different. According to the Alter Rebbe, the inspiration from on high that is a result of what we're doing is like the counting of the Omer. According to the Orach Chaim, the inspiration of the coming of Mashiach, which is a result of our efforts in the exile, mirrors more the third kind of model of the holiday of Shavuos. The holiday of Shavuos, which we said is just Hashem gives us a gift post our back and forth with Hashem. That's what is very similar to coming of Mashiach, where there is a everlasting gift that Hashem gives us. Yes, we made effort in the exile, but Mashiach's coming is not just Hashem responding to our mitzvahs. Mashiach's coming is there's a shofar that's blown, something which is far beyond what we possibly could have reached. So the Orach Chaim, his explanation seems to be relevant to the holiday of Shavuos. Now, the Rebbe's explanation seems to be relevant to the time of the counting the Yom. That makes sense a little bit. Well, God willing, we'll recap tomorrow, and I'll try to make it make sense. Yeah.
If I were to tell you hypothetically that today, tomorrow, whatever, Mashiach is coming, it's a fact, Mashiach. What does that mean? How are we going to know? What's going to happen? What does it mean? What does that really mean?
It's a very good. We should have a class just about the subject. But let's say this just for.
Is it just going to be
first of all, there's going to be a shofar that's blown that the whole world hears. That will inspire everyone to do teshuvah. Everyone's going to hear a shofar. But even here, before we hear the shofar, we're going to feel so good, so happy that we're just going to realize that it's in the air. Mashiach is here. Even before that, we know whatever before the reaction to the shofar being blown, just it'll be a change in our feeling. We're just going to feel. Yes.
Very depends on who today. If we believe Mashiach is coming today and tomorrow, who are likely to Mashiach? Is there? We knew the Rebbe could have been Mashiach, but he died. So who's living today that has the greatest of the Rebbe?
The Gemara actually says that Mashiach could be someone who passed away as well. So it's not just because someone passed away doesn't mean they can't be Mashiach anymore. The Gemara gives two opinions. One opinion is that Mashiach comes from those who are alive. Another opinion is that Mashiach comes from those who passed away. All right, to be continued.